Water dominates life across the planet. There are many legends and mysteries around water. Many myths and many more realities. The magic of nature is incomplete without the magic of water. And today, we're treading down the beaten path only on the water highways. These expressways of life are actually the arteries and veins of the planet Earth. And on these magical routes we will meet a fish out of water, the largest parking lot in the world. We meet bathing beauties, attempt a loony rescue and meet prehistoric river dwellers. But first, a magical story about a relationship as old as we are. Man and water are inseparable, and water dominates the lives of the caboclos, descendants of the early Portuguese settlers who intermarried with the local Indians. In former times, the forest Indians considered the river waters to be magical. The magic of nature continues to shine through these water highways. For traversing and sustenance, Carlitos is the head of the family. And it's his duty to pass his knowledge on to his son. The hunting and fishing know-how that he has accumulated during his life, the 1,001 skills and techniques that have enabled him and his Indian ancestors to survive in this untamed place. These are timeless lessons. A snagged hook, for instance, is far too precious to be lost and must be retrieved. Other animals are also on the lookout for food in these waters. A pair of giant otters twist and turn. A terrapin glides along the river bottom. The anhinga, which is similar to a cormorant, is as happy under the water as it is above. The river has not yet flooded into the forest, and at the moment, fish, concentrated between its banks, are plentiful. The reason for this trip on the water highway is to make the boy as familiar with the river and the forest, just as we are with the streets and buildings around our own homes. So, the magic of nature can be understood and passed on from generation to generation. The East African lungfish is a true magician. It can survive in shallow water with limited oxygen. That's because it has primitive lungs and breathes air rising to the surface about every 30 minutes. Surviving and adapting, just another trick from the magic of nature. Where mighty rivers meet the sea, large backwaters are often formed. Rivers park themselves here on the water highway. Now, let's move to the southern tip of Florida. These are the Everglades, a subtropical sanctuary filled with the magic of nature like no other place in the world. It's a tangle of mangrove and cypress swamps dotted with hardwood islands, and it's rich in bird life and dangerous reptilians. A variety of egrets nest in the trees, closely watched by the alligators cruising below. And if an egret chick should fall, with teeth like a buzzsaw, these 3-meter monsters make short work of any smaller prey. And if this doesn't impress you much, then wait and watch. You could learn a trick or two to help you woo your loved one. Serenading the old-fashioned way. The male's reverberating love calls serenade the fairer sex. And the noise draws the females ever closer. Foreplay is definitely a yes. Their courtship is rather tender, with much snout touching and back rubbing. And just a tad bit of dominance only helps the cause. Some courting alligators have even been seen playfully testing one another's strength by gently pressing each other under the water, which is a bit like the mating itself. But wait, the best trick is yet to come. The alligators can determine the sex of the baby inside the egg. The compost heat incubators, made from decaying vegetation on the riverbank, has this magical effect on the eggs in the nest. During the first 3 weeks, if the temperature is above 34 degrees Celsius, they're all male. If it's less than 30 degrees, they develop into females. Now, isn't that a truly amazing magic of nature? The water highways have been an intrinsic part of many a love story, including those of frogs. Remember the frog prince? The frogs mate near water. Their eggs develop at a spectacular rate, rather magical. Each embryo starts from a single cell, but in only 32 hours there are already 170,000. Springtime in a tree-shaded pool in Europe. It's all quiet and tranquil above the surface, but watch out once you get below. It's mid-April. The pike have spawned, and now these vicious ambush predators are at their hungriest. And they're not beyond a bit of cannibalism either. Most of their prey, however, consists of other fish that have moved into the shallows to breathe. And among them are sticklebacks. It's mating time, and they definitely are at their magical best. The males are programmed to attack anything with a red belly. The male pike's throat and gill covers are suffused with red. And now he begins to defend a little territory of his own, about 1 square meter. The female, on the other hand, has a white belly distended with eggs. The male coaxes the female into the nest he has built on the riverbed, vibrating her flanks to encourage her to lay the eggs. She lays about 60 eggs. The male pushes them so that they'll stick together and not float away, and at the same time makes room for more. The female, drifting off on her own, takes no part in all this. And she'd better watch out. Do you know what's going to happen? It seems the big wizard has eaten the little one. Wait, something's fishy. In my throat, darn it. This little wizard is not called a stickleback for nothing. She has a series of stickles or spines on her back which she can erect. This will stop the pike from swallowing her. Now she just has to sit and wait until the pike spits her out. Swallow that. Tropical Rio Branco is a tributary of the world's greatest water highway, the Amazon. The giant river turtles, or terrapins, react to the rising temperature and the lower level of the river and know that it's time to lay their eggs in the newly exposed sandbanks. This female was born on this beach, and several years later she returns to the same spot. Here she excavates a meter-deep hole and lays up to 130 soft, round eggs in it. Interestingly, amphibians like the salamander lack the impervious skin of the cousins, the frogs. Throughout their evolution, they've had to stay close to the water highway. And it's in the water or damp moss that they can lay their eggs. In Greek mythology, you had to cross the river Styx to get from life to death. But here, in the Middle East, if you follow the meltwaters that drain down into the river Jordan, you'll find yourself making a similar journey. The river's first pause on its way south is Lake Hula, a point where the migration routes of thousands of birds converge. Tens of thousands of cranes gather on the lake's shores heading for Europe. And squadrons of pelicans glide in for a stopover on their flights between Africa and the Danube marshlands. They're the largest and heaviest of the migrants with a mighty 3-meter wingspan. Much more delicate spoonbills sieve the mud for food. The squadrons have now become flotillas as the pelicans, working in unison, drive the fish before them. With the fish concentrated together, it's now much easier for the pelicans to scoop them up in their bills. But the river itself moves on. The cliff tops here are only just higher than sea level. And they're home to dassies, also known as rock hyraxes or conies. In the shallows of an East African freshwater lake, the emperor cichlids have come to spawn. A female lays her eggs in a shallow depression, and then, as with the Garibaldi fish, a male fertilizes them. But here, the female is not dismissed. Instead, a scavenging shoal of smaller cichlids is confronted by both parents. Emperor cichlids are quite sizable, nearly 1 meter in length, but this terrapin is 3 times heavier. It too has an appetite for cichlid eggs, but now the emperors show that they are both made of the right stuff. Perhaps only 1 in 10,000 eggs develop into a mature emperor. But on this occasion, the heroics have worked. And now for some myth mystique and reality all rolled into one. Reverently and magnificently decorated, these godlike creatures are also used as working elephants in Sri Lanka. Seen here enjoying an evening bath with their mahouts down on the water highway. There are also some amusing tales linking status and elephants. There's a famous one of the King of Siam and his insolent steward. Looking for a way of bringing the man down a peg or two, the king finally hit on the idea of giving him an elephant as a present. The beast, of course, ate so much food that the overbearing courtier was soon begging for mercy. Sometimes all it takes is smart thinking, and the rest can be left to the magic of nature. How about a quick pop quiz? Name the only animal in the world that cannot jump. Yes, you guessed it, the elephant. We are en route to the northern lakes of Minnesota, the moving tale of a lonely orphan and a daring rescue. The loon breeding season has ended and groups of adults have started forming. Having a last feed before leaving for their wintering grounds out in the open seas. It's autumn here. The trees are green and golden. But before the weather closes in, the loons must leave the water highway and head for the oceans. With their feet set so far back, they make excellent divers. But they're not so impressive when it comes to lifting themselves off the water. But after a laborious takeoff, they are very good flyers, reaching speeds of 120 kilometers an hour. But this young loon hasn't left with the others. The longer he leaves things, the smaller his chances of survival. The first snows arrive and autumn turns to winter. The water highway begins to freeze over. And the young loon still hasn't left, although he has been spotted. He won't survive for long all alone on the ice, which is dangerous to walk on. But don't despair, our hero has a daring plan. Using an inflatable rubber dinghy to spread his weight, he propels himself tortoise-like across the perilous ice. Time is of the essence for the stranded loon. Without any open water, he can't take off. If he isn't picked off by predators, he'll certainly die of cold. But this is his lucky day. Our lonesome loon is plucked from the icy jaws of death with a little help from a dinghy and a bold nature magician. This lonely little fellow can now fly east, where the ice-free, fish-filled seas await him, nearly 2,000 kilometers away. The magic of nature restored for another lifetime. And for our last story, we move to northern India. Here we find among the largest of all water highway dwellers, the gharials. They are extinct in many areas where they once lived, and these are being raised in captivity. Now it's at sanctuaries like this, the Kukrel Rehabilitation Center in northern India, that their future hangs in the balance. Gharial eggs are taken from the wild, where only 5 to 10% survive, and then hatched and raised here, safe from predators. These babies are being fed live fish to keep their hunting instincts keen and active. The public are welcome, for there are many myths about gharials that need to be dispelled. For instance, that the males possess magical aphrodisiac properties. There is also a belief that they attack humans. Jewelry has been found in their stomachs. But it was probably lost in the river after Hindu cremations, and the gharials swallowed it just as they swallow stones to help with their digestion and to alter their buoyancy. When they're not eating, basking in the sun is one of their favorite occupations. And this is a good time for a pre-release catching session. These 3-year-olds are strong. Their teeth are sharp as blades, and the process requires some skill and an old sack. This calms the gharial down and stops it hurting itself and its handlers. Before it can be released back on the water highway, it must be in tip-top condition, and this is something that its body weight will show. Nature magician Mr. Basu is the head of the center, and he checks the reading. The next step is to remove a few scales from its tail, so that it can be recognized if it's ever caught in the future. The process is painless. In fact, crocodiles have a powerful antibiotic in their blood that seems to prevent infection. Once they're safely crated up, it's off to the river Chambal. They look fierce, but they are purely fish eaters and are no threat to us at all. In India now, there are 9 areas where gharials are protected. The first releases were back in 1981, and so far breeding programs like this one have seen over 3,000 animals restored to the rivers where they belong. The magic of nature restored with a little help from us humans. Brooks, streams, lakes and rivers. These are the water highways of our world. Symbols of life and freedom. They have been worshipped as gods and goddesses. It is in their clean and continuous flow that all our futures are locked. That's it for today. Catch us again on this treasure trove brimming with the magic of nature.